Hello, I'm William Gallagher, and this is definitely 58 keys. It might be a special one. What's certain is that, as ever, it's going to be about how you and I, as writers, can get more out of our iPhones, our iPads, and our Macs. What it might be is a WWDC special. Right now, it's about 5 to 2 in the afternoon, UK time on Monday, the 22nd of June, which means Apple is starting its 2020 Worldwide Developers Conference in a little over 4 hours' time. I've been booked from 2 o'clock to write about it all on appleinsider.com. And seriously, right now, genuinely, I do not know if there'll be of anything of interest to us as writers, but there's going to be a lot announced. And if you're interested, if you want every detail, appleinsider.com, it's a really good place to go for this. 4 hours there. Just now, a few moments ago, my wife Angela Gallagher described this bit as being like the pre-match, the way a 90-minute football game is preceded by 4 hours of television punditry and coverage. And she's right, isn't she? I feel oddly self-conscious about that. But if I weren't commissioned to be writing about this stuff, I'd be reading about it. So the reason I'm talking to you about it, though, particularly, is that this time there could well be things that will help us directly, or which may affect what Apple gear we choose to buy, or when we choose to buy it. You see, WWDC, it's Apple's conference for software developers. It's actually an entire week of Apple showing developers what they've got that's new for them. That's its purpose. But even in a normal year, this is also where there is a spotlight on Apple, and they use that. They know the world, or at least that bit of the world that's either interested in how this can help us, or the bit that, I don't know, somehow wants to see Apple fail. They will be watching. So every year, Apple puts on its tie, and it's certain to put on a good shine, a good face on as many things as it can. And that's very nice for them. They do it very well. Apple puts on a show. But this year is different. For the first time, WWDC is entirely online. There's no gathering of developers at Apple Park in California. The entire thing is online because of the coronavirus situation. That situation, though, means also that this WWDC, it's really Apple's first event of the year. We'd have had several normally. And that's one reason why sometimes it's rumoured that Apple will use their opening keynote part of this, to announce new Macs. Not iPhones, no chance. Possibly iPads, maybe. There might be Macs, or there might not be. But this is the year, this is the time when Apple is also expected to unveil that it's making a radical change to all future Macs, and that is what will make a difference to you and me over what and when we choose to buy. Now, I need to go right now. After a little break, we're going to see whether or not there's news of interest of what's happened, whether it's going to be good for writers, or I'm just going to say, nope, nothing to see here, move along. All right, except one thing. I'm actually booked here probably until around midnight my time, so at least stick around to see how knackered I look afterwards. Okay, I didn't think of this when I spoke to you earlier, but when you're booked to write about something like Apple's WWDC announcements, well, the trouble is they make a lot of announcements. So everything gets covered by somebody, but you, any one individual writer, you end up writing about one particular thing at a time, and then you miss bits. You don't catch up until much later. So, I mean, I want to be useful to you, and so I think the way I can do that best is, well, actually to stop and have a ponder. However, while there are a lot of little details that caught my eye as a writer and I want to look at again, there is also one big announcement from today, and it's the one that affects whether or not, or when or not, you buy a new Mac. By 2022, all Macs that Apple sells will be running on what they're now calling Apple Silicon. So instead of the Intel processors that are at the heart of the Mac now and have been, continue to be at the heart of Windows PCs, Apple is moving the Mac to something like the processors in the iPhone and the iPad. I mean, it's not the same thing, but it's based on the same thing. For all of us, writers, everybody else, any Mac users, The long-term result will be that our Macs, the new Macs, are going to be faster and more powerful. They'll also be able to do other things like run iPhone apps right alongside the Mac ones, which is interesting. But the long term, it isn't that long. It's 2 years. From now until every Mac sold, it will be on Apple Silicon. It'll be 2 years. That's not long, but it is long enough to give you pause over whether or not to buy a new Mac now or whether to wait. And I don't know. Except I do know this. I like the idea of faster, more powerful Macs, but really only because right alongside my writing, I use some pretty hefty software like Final Cut Pro 10 for video editing, and that stresses out my little Mac Mini. My writing doesn't. Your writing doesn't. Because there is no poem or script or book series you can write that any Mac will blink at. So the speed benefits of you waiting 2 years for an Apple Silicon Mac are not worth it. The trouble is, it's not that Apple's going to suddenly launch all its Apple Silicon Macs in 2022. It will transition the range over, and the first machines will be later this year, 2020. So now, are the benefits of waiting 6 months worth it? Well, if we knew which machine was coming first, that might help, but we don't. So I'm going to suggest this to you. If you need a Mac now, buy a Mac now. The whole lineup is strong, fast, good, and if the prices are eye-watering, well, this is Apple, and they're not going to make their new machines cheaper. If you can wait, though, at least until we see what the first machines are. I mean, the MacBook, the MacBook Pro, the Mac Mini, the iMac. So what's that? That's laptops, little desktops, big desktops, the whole range. See which they are. If you can wait, do. Or, as this, I would like to buy a MacBook Pro. And apart from the cost, which is substantial, I've actually been struggling to work out which the best one for me is, given that I wanted it to last me, say, 5 years, and I'm doing more and more video editing. I'm stressing out my little Mac Mini more and more. I had been coming to the unfortunate conclusion that I should save up for a 16-inch MacBook Pro because that would last. That would do everything I need and for a long time. But, you know, not only is it a lot of money, the 16-inch model, it's a boat. It's huge. So I want a 13-inch MacBook. But I had serious doubts whether one would last me long enough. Now, I'm still thinking, I'm still deciding, but okay, I just said to you, if you need one, buy it, and if you don't, then wait. I'm telling you this because I think there might be a middle ground. If I do buy a MacBook Pro for my work, I now don't think that I will go for the most powerful or, you know, basically the highest price one that I might. I'll compromise and get a cheaper one that in, say, only 2 or 3 years, I'll sell. That's what I'm thinking now. But now is just about midnight on June the 22nd, 2020, and I've been working all day. So I am definitely not going to the online Apple store to click buy. Oh, instead, I'm going to say buy for now, for a moment. Oh, daylight. Right, cold light of day, good night's sleep, strange crick in my neck. The biggest writer-related part of WWDC first. Yeah, well, I mean, potentially. It certainly is for me. I said that I wanted a MacBook Pro, and actually, I wanted it for 2 reasons. One was being that, I think I said, my current Mac Mini is struggling a bit. But also because I travel a lot. Except I don't now, do I? Nor do you. Even when the lockdown truly lifts, most events I was booked for, I mean, that have survived, have moved online. One, for example, that's a series of events, has just decided to move the whole of the next 12 months online complete. Get it done with. So I'll be doing all of those from right here, which means cold light of day, good night's sleep, crick in the neck. I will now wait for one of the Apple Silicon MacBook Pros, at least for a while. See when we find out when they're coming out. So actually, it's as I said, if you need a machine now, buy a machine now. And if you can wait, well, just for once, you might be wise to wait a little while anyway. That truly is the key part of Apple's WWDC 2020 for you and me as writers. But we are also writers who use all this gear. So go on, just for me, let me tell you my 5 favourite announcements. And I'd very much relish hearing yours in the comments down below. Number 5, widgets on the home screen. The thing is, you've already got widgets on your iPhone. I was actually going to do an episode of 58 Keys about them, because I mean, they're almost good enough, almost useful enough, that it's a shame people don't notice they're there. Might do it anyway, not sure. I expect all that anyway is going to change when iOS 14 launches. You'll become more aware of them because you can now move them onto your home screen. Love it. I've been taking screen grabs actually of my iPhone home screen since 2007. This is going to be the biggest change over them all. Pages. Pages is going to look nicer. I think that's good. Apple says that its menus and its options will now get out of your way more until you need them, and that sounds great and it does look good, but Pages already hides away word processing functionality, and I think the result isn't simplicity. It's I get a lot of people saying to me that Pages can't do something that I know it can. Number 3, translation in Safari. I'm honestly surprised how often this comes up, but I very often have to read websites in translation for something I'm writing. And what I do at the moment is I highlight some text, and using a Mac utility called PopClip, I click on a button for translation. That launches Google Translate in a new web page, and after a moment I get to read the translation. Very useful. But it can only do things like a chunk at a time. I can grab 2 or 3, maybe 4 paragraphs and do this. But anymore, and PopClip just stops showing me the translate button. Whereas Safari will now just with one tap translate the whole page, the whole site, whatever it is. Control Center and Notification Center on the Mac. Are we scraping the barrel? Is this really small? It's very small. It's just the iPhone's Control Center and Notification Center coming to the Mac. But these are controls I use a lot on the iPhone. I'll use them a lot on the Mac. Apple Watch washing hands.
Our approach here is using machine learning models to determine motion which appears to be hand washing, and then use audio to confirm the sound of running water or squishing soap on your hands. During this, you'll get a little coaching to do a good job. You'll see a countdown along with haptics and sounds to make sure you wash as long as you're supposed to. If you pause early, there's a polite note to keep washing. And when you're done, you'll see, hear, and feel it.
It's just adorable. That's it. I mean, maybe Pages and Translate are the most obvious new items of interest for us as writers, but it's all good, it's all fun. And remember, the more we can play with our research, our Macs and iPhones and iPads, the less writing we have to do. Thank you for watching. Please do the YouTube subscribe dance for me, and take care of yourself, will you? I'll see you soon.